is Kevin Harlan, and I don't even know if you know that you're the voice of the Niners now. Let me think. You've done 2 Niner games. You did last night's game, and you handled the update desk on Sunday as well, we noticed. So you're officially doing all the games, Kevin.
It's my honor to do them. Believe me, they're a great organization. I always enjoy seeing that team play. They're loaded. They got some injury issues clearly right now. They're coming off a game where actually, Minnesota is a lot better than advertised, kind of like New Orleans. The pundits, I think, underestimated those two teams pretty significantly. Minnesota is tough, and they've bolstered their defense. They've made some changes. They've got weapons on offense, as we saw on Sunday. And they have a quarterback, quite frankly, who's playing with a lot of confidence, and it didn't take long for him to kind of get in his lane and get going. And it was just one of those days for the Niners. They missed McCaffrey, clearly. I mean, he's the motor, as you all know, for that team. And when he's not there and he's not a part of what's going on, like all, special, elite, great players, it's incumbent on somebody to pick up the pieces and try to bring things together. And that's not easily done. It may have looked that way against the Jets, but it's going to be tough until he gets back, and hopefully it's sooner than later. And now Deebo, we get Deebo back out there too with his soft tissue injury. But when this team is whole, I still believe they're the best team in the NFC. I really do.
Yeah, pretty impressive game by Minnesota. And you talked about picking up the pieces with no McCaffrey, and you saw Jordan Mason do his thing now 2 straight weeks. What do you make of the young running back and the way he goes about getting those yards?
He runs hard. He hits the hole. He has great vision. My goodness, he cuts and really knows when to cut. So the timing of making the move with the, lead block and how the angle is being set for him, he's a master at it. I don't know how he went undrafted. I would say this. I think that the Niners kind of pride themselves on bringing in projects like this. It's been very clear with the variety of players. Not the least of which was your quarterback. But this kid was undrafted and barely made a ripple coming out of Georgia Tech. But the fact that he has been in that program, knows the offense well, and knows his time is now, and the team needs him. I mean, he's a third-string back going into camp, and Mitchell's injured. We know about Christian. So, I mean, he's got to step up. And sure enough, he's done it now twice. And I don't think there's any stopping him. I think he has a great feel for what he needs to do. I think you've read and heard out there that Fred Warner kind of took him under his wing this past off season, and while he has worked out with the Niners and in their facility during these last couple off seasons, he worked with linebackers almost exclusively for a month this past off season, and clearly it's added a little bit of grit, a little bit of toughness to him, and it's showing right now, and they need it. So a quarterback's best friend is a good running game. They've got one, and we saw that, again, Purdy answered the bell with his efficient play, but just not enough. And home openers are always great. You saw it Monday night against the Jets, and the Viking fans saw it Sunday against the Niners.
Kevin Harlan is with us here on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Kevin, I wonder, because there's been a lot, right? There's the IU holdout, the Trent Williams holdout. Then the season starts. There's no Christian McCaffrey. Now add Deebo to it. You've had a chance, I would imagine, to visit a little bit with Kyle Shanahan through these first 2 weeks, and I wonder what you kind of gathered in terms of the state of the team and how he plans to go about attacking these challenges.
Well, he's had challenges before, and he's always handled them well. I really, my admiration for Kyle and the organization is pretty limitless, quite frankly, and they'll figure it out. I think when new roles have got to be taken, when bench guys now are getting more snaps or bench guys are becoming starters, there's a change that ripples right through the team, and everybody's got to make an adjustment to a different degree. And I think that's kind of maybe the process they're going with, right now. They didn't have Trent all camp, and he shows up a week out, and somehow, some way, this guy is superhuman, man. The way he can come back, and I know he was working out on his own. It's not football workout and team workout like you see in camp and everything else. But the fact that he can come in and only miss a couple of plays against the Jets and then do what he did against the Vikings and a pretty good defensive front is pretty startling to me, quite frankly. And my respect for him is off the chart, as everybody's is. He'll be in Canton one day, and it's going to be a proud moment for the Niner organization when he gets in there. And then Ayuk, I think, is playing. First of all, he's not in that football shape, and there is a difference. You can come and work on your core, and you can come after an off season of working with yoga guys and weight guys and run guys and meal guys and whoever else, the Dalai Lama, and you're gonna until you're in that camp and in the everyday grind of practice and preparation and coaching, it's just not the same. And he's kind of in that stage right now. So his camp is I don't know how many looks he's getting, but clearly the production has been down from what we're used to seeing. I think that's just a blip, and he'll pick up, especially now that Deebo may be on the side here for a bit, and he's going to have to. I mean, the moments of him kind of being in the background and not prominent for the first two games are over. He's got to step up, and he's got to kind of be like Juwan Jennings, quite frankly. He's got to be reliable. He's got to be there, and I think he'll meet the challenge. And I would never underestimate the fact of the weight of that contract. That's a gigantic contract he has. Everybody's eyes are on him. The expectations have now grown, and my guess is he'll handle it. But like with anything in life, it's a change, and that's a change in so many ways. You've got to adapt, and he will. And this will be the team we all thought they'd be here in the next couple of weeks. But right now, they've got to get at least another 3 weeks without Christian, and who knows how much longer without Deebo. But they'll get back there, and they'll be fine, and they'll be the team we thought they were going to be heading into the season.
A little bit of survive in advance now for the Niners without Deebo and Christian, and the big guy who is still there, and the guy making tiny money, not the big money, is Brock Purdy. What have you made from Brock Purdy, having seen him twice now in this early season and where he is in his season?
I love him. He's wired the same way the great ones are. We talked to him the other day, and his answers are clear and efficient. His direction on answers is you know where his compass is pointed, and I think all the quarterbacks with presence, and he has gained it even more so than when he first got the job some 26, 27, 28 games ago, going back a couple years. He's a confident kid, and he's got a lot going for him. And everybody is saying, well, he's got his hands on the wheel of a Ferrari. Well, good for him. There are a lot of quarterbacks that have their hands on the wheels of a Ferrari, and they start shifting gears, man. They're all over the place. They're fishtailing and they're ramming into the side rails and everything else. So listen, he has got those elements working for him. What I think is interesting for Purdy right now, beginning this week, is he has no Christian, no Deebo. He's got a left tackle still trying to get his feet under him. He's got Ayuk trying to get his paces. And people are kind of looking at him, and he's going to have to do maybe a little bit more. He's got this big contract, like you talked about, looming, because they're basically getting him for free. That's how they're able to sign Williams and sign Ayuk and get all these things done. But when the clock is ticking, they're going to have to pay this guy as your quarterback. He will solidify every positive thought that the organization has of him with what he does, without a lot of air in those tires and a lot of gas in that tank, right? He's gonna have to maybe move a little bit and adjust, and he can play the same way, but I mean he's gonna have to be lights out. And quarterbacks that make $40-50 million a year, that's the way they've got to play when they don't have every part at their disposal. And he's not going to have the parts that make that team special. He doesn't have the engine in McCaffrey. He doesn't have that ubiquitous piece in Deebo Samuel. He's going to have to, the offense is going to have to adjust, and he's going to have to be right there leading that adjustment. So these next weeks are incredibly revealing, and I think it will just solidify his place not just for this season, but for the rest of his career, in how he handles this offense without having the main parts and the most headline-making guys at his disposal.
Kevin Harlan with us, Willard and Dibs. That's an interesting statement you just made there at the end, Kevin. You're confident that this is going to go well for him.
I am. I really am. I have great faith. And first of all, I think Kyle will continue to provide him with the call sheet and the game plan that will work as both see fit. And he couldn't have a better voice in his ear and a guy in his head than Kyle Shanahan. And he's got that going for him. He's got the confidence of playing in a Super Bowl. He's got, 22 wins in 27 games started in regular season play. I mean, this guy has done it with a lot of different players, including a Hall of Fame tight end and other parts that can emerge, like Juwan Jennings. And he's proven he can do it. And now he's going to have to, really kind of, I wouldn't say carry, because the team is still, even with McCaffrey and Samuel gone, I mean, the team is still terrific. But this is where he's going to be tested as much as any time, because he doesn't have the things that make him and that offense special. And if he can survive this, and this team can get over that 500 mark, and he continues to play the way he is, and maybe he does a little bit more, I think that you can see what could be a very historical another quarterback in that line. I'm not saying that even with those other guys that he wouldn't be that guy anyway. I just think on the cusp of a big contract, and it's coming, that this puts all worries aside, that he is the right guy in every form and fashion. You want to try to craft that quarterback position. I just think he possesses all you need. I know that the tangible things like speed and size and all that stuff made him a 7th-round pick, and I get all that. But listen, and I know it's a tired, worn-out phrase, but you can't help but still see that there have been quarterbacks in this league like him that have gone on to become the best at the position ever. And I just think that when I think of the great quarterbacks, when I think of the guys that can look you in the eye, when I think of the guys that have a command and a presence and have a tireless work ethic and know they've got to always be working a little bit harder than anybody else in the league, I see that in him. He may not be the tallest. He may not have the rocket arm, although it looks to me like it's stronger. He had the elbow last year, and he couldn't work out during the season because it was healing after the surgery. This year was a completely different offseason with core work and elbow work and arm care and all the things that these quarterbacks do. So I think he's got everything in his favor. He's got great momentum, and this is, I think, a moment where if there are critics, and everybody's got them, even the great Mahomes has them, if he has critics, this is a way to really answer a lot of people and saying, well, the only reason why he survives and why he has this record is because he's got great talent. And agreed, he's got as many good parts, if not the most, of any quarterback in pro football. But now he can kind of take all that he's learned, all that he's accomplished, and he can really, stand out on his own merit and do the things that a lot of people project he can do. So I'm bullish on him. I think he's the right guy. He's got the right coach. He still has a lot of weapons, and they're all strong. And importantly, he's got number 24 in back of him, and that's the quarterback's best friend is that run game. So I think he's going to be fine, and I think the team is going to be fine in lieu of McCaffrey and Samuel not being there for 3 weeks or longer.
It will be interesting to watch here over the next few weeks. And you talked about weapons, and I think about the Niners, and the number one weapon that they have might be on defense, Fred Warner. What do you make of Fred's first 2 games? And do you start to think about Fred in terms of the pantheon of great linebackers here in the modern game?
Mike Singletary, command, vision, hitting, reading, can play the run and the pass, controls the defense, has the charisma to do it. durable. He's only missed one game, I think, in his pro career. I mean, he is everything you want in a middle linebacker. I don't know who would come close to him in pro football, quite frankly. There are guys that are younger who are emerging. Right now, he is at the very top of the list.
Kevin, you've said some really nice things about Kyle Shanahan in this conversation. Having done the game last night as well, we've had some conversations today about Nick Sirianni. I'm certainly not asking for you to take a shot, but I would love your reaction to what happened last night and maybe also a little compare contrast. Like, he's gotten under Niner fans' skin a little bit, the fiery nature of the way he handles the sideline. And then the call at the end of the game last night has a lot of us scratching your head. How would you kind of compare and contrast Kyle and Nick?
Well, I did that game last night and in Philadelphia, so I got to see it, firsthand. And it's rare. The word collapse is a very strong word, and I almost think of it in terms of losing a 20 or a 30-point lead, and that would look like a collapse. But to have Kirk Cousins coming off Achilles tear and still not really mobile, and doing what he did in that frame with that defense, now listen, he's got a new defensive coordinator. There's still a lot of newness about what they're trying to do. They made the change there in the offseason. They got Vic Fangio, who's not a blitz guy, and he really sticks to his principles, and sometimes they can come back and get you, and they did last night. But Sirianni has been on the hot seat here for a while, and I don't know if it was coincidence or not, but Belichick was in the building last night. And, yes, he was doing the Manning cast, and I saw him walking on the sideline before the game. So I don't know why he was in the building, but he was. And I'm not saying anything about that means anything. Had they won by 40, I would still mention that he was there because, people are after Nick right now. And, listen, he's been to a Super Bowl. They've had great starts. I'm not sure where him and the quarterback are on the page. They've got a new caller in Kellen Moore, who's come from the Chargers, and before that, Dallas. I still think that's a work in progress. Quarterback played well last night, but he turned it over again. He's had more turnovers than any other player in the league over the last year plus, since the beginning of the 2023 season. So that's a problem. You can, at that position, when you're an elite quarterback and paid like one, with that kind of team, you cannot turn the ball over. And he did, again, and it hurt him. And I don't know. I from afar, you can sit there and think a lot of things, but there's no denying that there is a lot of turmoil in Philadelphia right now after last night, because they had that game and they were not able to close the door. And great teams always finish. And I kind of thought Philadelphia coming into the season was maybe that kind of team. And I guess when I think about John and Kyle, I think more in terms of long-term attention to detail, constantly evolving, looking for new ways, innovative. Listen, in anybody's town, the least appreciated guy is the head coach. But outside that market, when you take a look at the other 31 head coaches in the league, and you mentioned Kyle Shanahan, I don't know if there's another person in the league that would say he is not a top 3 NFL head coach. His record says it. The quality of the team says it. I still think they're the best team in the NFC, and I would say that and I don't like comparing these guys because the job is immense and it's very difficult. Everybody's got a different set of circumstances and injuries and an owner that might meddle or not meddle or just things going on that you never know about. And we're only 2 weeks into the season. You don't know what your team is like until you get to about week 5 or 6. And there's more growth or the reverse between weeks 1 and 2. So we've got 2 teams here, the Eagles and the Niners, who have lost in week 2 after winning in week 1. And I don't think that is a telltale for any way they may be going or may not be going. I'm just saying that after you've seen that first week, after you've broken camp and the starters haven't played, and you get them on the field and kind of see what you've got, I still think there's a fact-finding mission going into week 2, but there's no doubt you learn more about your team from week 1 to 2 than maybe you do at any other part of the team, and then you finally kind of put a period on that by week 6. I think by week 6, you know exactly what you have, what you can and cannot do, where you need to grow as you go down that road. And both those coaches, Sirianni with the Eagles and certainly Kyle with the Niners, I think both those coaches have a pretty good command of what they have. The question in Philadelphia is, will they be patient so they can kind of get off the block here and see what they've got until week 6? Or does the impatient owner, and there were rumblings in the offseason about Philadelphia, right? I mean, there was a lot of talk with Sirianni survive. They made a change at the coordinator on the offensive and the defensive side. And one more thing, they lost their offensive and defensive coordinator to head coaching jobs in the NFL. That's a lot of brain drain. Belichick went through it, certainly at New England, but they lost one guy to the Colts and one guy to the Cardinals. That's hard to replace 2 coordinators like the Eagles had to do. So I almost give them a little pass here because I think they're still, even at this stage, trying to collect themselves and get to back where they were a couple years ago, and that was as a Super Bowl team that just lost to the Kansas City Chiefs very, very late in the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Kevin, you're the absolute best, man. Thank you so much for making some time for us, okay?
My privilege. Thanks, guys. Great being on. Thank you so much, and I hope I get to see the Niners for another week coming up. They were fun on Monday, and even on Sunday, quite frankly. That was a terrific game. It didn't end up the way that you wanted it out there, but it was enjoyable. That was a loud building, man. I'm telling you what, my ears are still ringing. And even Philadelphia last night, we're doing the game there, Kurt Warner and I were, and it was loud, but nothing like that downtown Minneapolis stadium. That indoor stadium was loud and very tough to communicate, I'm sure, both offensively and defensively for the 49ers.
Kevin, we're always rooting for you to have the Niner games as well, man. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.